My mother looked me dead in the eye across the celebratory dinner table, raised her glass of champagne, and delivered a public sentence that branded my entire youth. "At least she's smart," she announced to our extended family, her voice dripping with cruel amusement. "Because beauty completely skipped her." The table erupted into sharp, mocking laughter. My golden child sister giggled behind her napkin, and my father just shook his head, treating my existence like a bad investment. On the day of my university graduation, instead of a hug or a word of pride, I was handed a packed garbage bag, told I was a family defect, and walked out into the pouring rain with exactly $365 to my name. They thought they had buried me forever. They had no idea they were handing me the ultimate fuel. 10 years later, I walked into my sister's multi-thousand-dollar wedding as a multi-millionaire tech founder, and the groom asked a single question that destroyed her world. My name is Clara Hayes, and at 32 years old, I finally understand that biology is never a guarantee of loyalty. For as long as I can remember, my life in our household was measured by a cruel and rigid scale. My younger sister, Vanessa, was treated like porcelain and gold, while I was dismissed as the awkward, unpolished ghost of the family. On the night of my university graduation, after 4 grueling years of working night shifts to top my class in software engineering, I thought my parents might finally look at me with pride. Instead, they turned my celebration into a public execution. We sat at a high-end restaurant where my mother raised her glass, looked me dead in the eye across the table, and announced to our extended relatives, "At least she's smart." Because beauty completely skipped her. The table erupted into sharp, mocking laughter. My father chuckled, sipping his wine, while Vanessa giggled behind her napkin. I sat there, my face burning with humiliation, waiting for someone, anyone, to defend me. But no one did. When the dinner ended, my father didn't offer congratulations. Instead, he dropped a heavy, packed garbage bag right onto the restaurant floor. He looked at me with pure disgust and said, "If you're not going to dress like a lady or act like part of our world, you aren't using our last name. You're a defect, Clara. Get out." They stripped my keys, canceled my phone plan, and locked me out. I stood in the pouring rain outside that restaurant with wet clothes, zero support, and exactly $365 left in my bank account. The tears stung my eyes, but as the cold water soaked through my jacket, something inside me shifted forever. The eager-to-please girl who begged for their love died right there on that pavement. I walked away into the dark, vowing that they would one day regret the day they threw me away like trash. Little did they know that $365 was all the seed money I needed to build an empire they could never touch. Those first few months on my own felt like trying to survive a freezing winter with nothing but a matchstick. With just $365 to my name, I couldn't afford an apartment. I rented a cramped, windowless room in a rundown boarding house where the floorboards groaned with every step and the walls were thin enough to hear every neighbor's argument. During the day, I attended advanced computer science lectures, and the moment class ended, I rushed to my first job folding laundry at a local dry cleaner. By midnight, I was clocking into a graveyard shift as a data entry clerk, staring blearily at glowing spreadsheets until my eyes burned. My body ached with a deep, crushing exhaustion, and there were nights I cried myself to sleep on a second-hand mattress that smelled of damp dust. But every time I wanted to give up, I remembered my mother's cold laugh and my father's disgusted face at that graduation dinner. That humiliation became my absolute fuel. While my peers spent their weekends partying or resting, I poured every spare second into my true passion, coding and artificial intelligence. Working long hours in hospital administration during my internships had exposed a massive, glaring flaw in the medical world. High-end hospitals were hemorrhaging billions of dollars and risking patient safety because their diagnostic and data systems were completely outdated, clunky, and prone to catastrophic administrative errors. I knew I could fix it. I spent every free minute building an AI-driven software architecture designed to catch surgical discrepancies, audit medical supply chains, and automate diagnostic routing before a doctor even opened a chart. I lived on instant noodles, black coffee, and pure grit. Slowly, painstakingly, line by line of code, my project began to take shape. I didn't have fancy venture capital or wealthy parents to back my dreams. I had only my own intellect, my relentless work ethic, and the burning desire to prove that I was never the defect they claimed I was. By my 4th year, I had a working prototype that could revolutionize hospital administration. I took a massive leap of faith, pitched the software to a group of angel investors under my mother's maiden name, Vance, and watched in breathless disbelief as they offered me seed funding. That single moment transformed my life. Within 3 years, my garage project evolved into a multi-million-dollar biotech powerhouse called Aegis Health Systems. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was dominating an industry. I upgraded my wardrobe, moved into a stunning penthouse overlooking the city skyline, and transformed myself into a confident, polished CEO. I had clawed my way to the top completely on my own terms, leaving the broken, shivering girl of the past far behind, entirely unaware that my past was about to violently collide with my present. 10 years of absolute silence passed without a single word, text, or card passing between my family and me. As far as my parents and sister Vanessa were concerned, Clara Hayes had simply vanished off the face of the earth. I had built a fortress of peace, success, and genuine happiness, locking away the memories of my toxic past behind an impenetrable wall. But the universe has a strange sense of humor, and past chapters have a habit of demanding a final read. It happened on a crisp autumn Tuesday when a heavy, gold-embossed envelope arrived at my executive suite. It wasn't an email or a digital notification. It was a physical invitation delivered by a high-end courier service. I sliced open the envelope and pulled out the thick cardstock. It was a formal invitation to Vanessa's ultra-exclusive, high-society wedding, set to take place at the city's most opulent luxury hotel ballroom. She was marrying Dr. Julian Vance, the wealthy heir to the nation's largest private hospital syndicate, the very elite medical network my family had spent decades obsessing over and worshipping from afar. The invitation hadn't come from my parents or Vanessa. It was a mass-printed corporate courtesy sent out to high-profile biotech CEOs by the groom's family, who had no idea who I actually was or what history we shared. I held that heavy paper in my hands, feeling the raised gold lettering beneath my fingertips. A rush of cold memories washed over me. The restaurant floor, the packed garbage bag, the freezing rain, and the laughter that had tried to break my spirit. For a fleeting second, I considered tossing it into the shredder and forgetting it ever existed. But then I looked around my grand office, realizing how far I had climbed. I owed it to the 19-year-old girl who cried on a second-hand mattress to show up, not to beg, but to close the loop once and for all. Behind the scenes, I quietly instructed my legal and financial team to run a comprehensive background check on the Vance Hospital Syndicate. What my attorneys uncovered during that routine audit was a massive, ticking time bomb of severe financial discrepancies, embezzlement of research funds, and impending bankruptcy that the Vance family was desperately trying to cover up through a high-society marriage. They thought they were marrying into royalty. They had no idea they were inviting their ultimate corporate auditor straight through the front doors. On the evening of the wedding, I stepped out of a chauffeured black sedan right onto the red carpet outside the grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton. Wearing a custom midnight blue silk gown that shimmered under the crystal chandeliers, my hair styled into sleek waves and carrying myself with the effortless authority of a tech mogul, I walked through the double doors. The pre-ceremony lounge was packed with the city's elite medical professionals, renowned surgeons, and hospital board members sipping champagne. I was quietly observing the floral arrangements when a sharp, horrified gasp pierced through the ambient chatter. I turned to see my mother, Evelyn, standing near the bar. She wore an expensive emerald dress, but her face twisted into an expression of pure, unadulterated disgust. She marched directly over to me, not even bothering to lower her voice. "What is this beggar doing here?" she sneered, her eyes scanning my tailored gown with bitter suspicion. "Did you slip past security to crash your sister's big day? You'll never belong in our world." Before I could answer, Vanessa stepped out from the bridal suite, flanked by her bridesmaids. Her jaw dropped, but her shock instantly melted into a malicious, mocking laugh. "Look who decided to crawl out of the gutter," Vanessa said loudly enough for half the room to hear. You weren't invited, Clara. You're a defect, and you're not part of this family. My father pushed through the crowd, his face flushed with embarrassment as high-profile doctors began whispering among themselves. He grabbed my arm roughly, his grip tightening as he growled in my ear. Security is on their way to throw you out into the street where you belong. I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. I simply maintained a calm, unbothered composure that only seemed to infuriate them more. Just as two burly security guards began making their way across the marble floor toward me, the heavy oak doors at the back of the lounge swung open. Dr. Julian Vance, the groom, walked in accompanied by his father, Arthur Vance, the billionaire founder of Vance Health Systems. My father immediately raised his hand, signaling the guards while flashing a hypocritical smile at Arthur. "Apologies for this disruption, Arthur," my father said smoothly. "An uninvited parasite somehow breached your event security. We're having her thrown out right now." Julian paused, his eyes landing on me. The glass in his hand slipped from his fingers, shattering across the tile floor. His face turned completely drained of color. "Vanessa, sweetie, don't worry," Vanessa's mother-in-law cooed, stepping up. Julian forcefully shoved past my parents so fast he nearly knocked them over. He stopped inches away from me, breathing heavily. "Dr. Vance," my mother stammered, bewildered. "What are you doing? She's nobody." Julian turned around, his eyes burning with fury as he glared at my parents and Vanessa. "How dare you speak to her like that? Are you completely out of your minds?" He turned back to face me, taking a respectful step back before addressing the room in a loud, commanding voice. "This woman isn't a beggar. She is Clara Vance, founder and CEO of Aegis Health Systems. As of 8 o'clock this morning, her company finalized the acquisition of a controlling 51% stake in Vance Health Systems. She is the new majority owner, the board chair, and literally everyone's boss in this room." A suffocating, pin-drop silence fell over the entire ballroom. My mother's face drained to a ghostly white, her jaw frozen open. Vanessa gasped, staggering back a step as if she'd been physically struck. My father stood paralyzed, staring at me as if looking at a total stranger, while the trap finally snapped shut on their entire world. Arthur Vance stepped up beside his son, his expression grave and severe as he looked directly at my trembling father. He confirmed the corporate takeover and announced that my parents' positions and privileges were under immediate review for severe financial misconduct. I calmly pulled a leather dossier from my clutch and handed it over, detailing how they had misappropriated research funds. Within minutes, security guards escorted my mother, father, and sister out of the grand ballroom under the stunned gazes of the city's medical elite. The wedding was called off instantly, and the family's fragile empire collapsed into bankruptcy audits and public disgrace. Today, Aegis Health Systems continues to transform diagnostics nationwide, and I run my life with absolute peace and purpose. I didn't get my revenge by shouting or fighting. I got it by outgrowing them completely. Standing up to that cruel graduation dinner table 10 years ago was the hardest thing I ever did, but it taught me that your past never defines your destiny. Your determination does. Now, I am deeply curious about all of you listening today. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have walked away like I did, or handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to tell me the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. Thank you for watching until the very end, and I'll see you in the next video.